Great, thank you. That's a very interesting data set as well, which extremely comprehensive. Something I've seen is Mark Evers here from Transport for London, as Mark. Something similar I've seen applied to London. I'm sure other cities can do the same. So all of these presentations will go up on the Civic Exchange website over the next week or so. By all means, access these. Great. Without further ado, I would like to invite up to the stage Mr. David Libatique. Is that right? Have I? Yes. Oh, great. Director of Energy Policy at the City of Los Angeles. And David has been given a very generous 10 minutes to speak. Yeah, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. My name is David Libatique, and I'll try to keep you all awake by keeping this very brief. I'm the EV Policy Director for the Los Angeles Mayor, Antonio Villaraigosa. I'd like to thank the C40 organizers for giving me this opportunity to discuss LA's EV readiness strategy. LA is, of course, well known for its embrace of the automobile. Cars have long played a very central role in the lives of our residents. Drive-throughs, freeway, road rage, everything that people love and hate about cars happens in Los Angeles. Now, our mayor views electric vehicles as a key environmental initiative, and it must be a part of a strategy to reduce our carbon emissions, air pollution, and oil dependence. But the mayor also recognizes the power of transforming a prominent car capital into a leading EV capital. So we are very sensitive to the symbolic power of that as well. Very briefly, this is an overview of our EV strategy. I'd like to echo statements made by other cities that what we're doing in Los Angeles isn't necessarily right for all other cities. So these may not serve as a direct example to all cities. There are some cities that are a lot like Los Angeles and similarly structured in terms of housing and commuter patterns. And if these still don't apply, well, then we could just be wrong, and we're open to that too. Our primary goal here is essentially to support the early adopters and move beyond those early adopters and drive higher EV penetration rates. We're pursuing three basic strategies. An incentive-based strategy, and we are already offering an off-peak EV incentive rate. I believe that it was commented in an earlier presentation yesterday that we offered an 8.5 cent off-peak rate, and right now what we're working under is a 2.5 cent discount on the off-peak rate, and working on a even more aggressive off-peak incentive. We're currently working with a local university to conduct a study of additional incentives we might consider that would actually apply and move the needle past the early adopters. And we've also made announcements, and we're currently in development working out the details of a residential EVSE subsidy. Of course, infrastructure, I believe there was a lot of discussion about home charger install. We have a goal of a 7-day install, and we treat EVSE under our express permit and with 24-hour inspection. We're looking at upgrading our existing public charger infrastructure. We have 350 so existing EV chargers in the city of Los Angeles. There are about 1,200 located throughout the entire region. And we are currently working with the Southern California Association of Governments, MTA, and the South Coast Air Quality Management District on a longer-term strategy, collecting the learnings from some of the grant-funded projects that are operating in the city of LA to see how we can go about building out long-term infrastructure. I think I'd like to acknowledge some of the statements made. We don't exactly know how all this is going to play out, so we are viewing our build-out of public infrastructure as really a first phase, learn as much as we can, and evaluate how to go about proceeding with greater EV ambitions. We are in the process of establishing EV-ready building codes. So the City of Los Angeles is going to accede to the Cal Green building codes by January 1st. What that would do is all 1, 2-family residence townhomes would be required to have a 208, 240 volt conduit panel next to the garaging location for all new construction, and then a 5% requirement in the case of commercial or multifamily dwelling with pooled parking. So the last part that I think is really going to be the focus of the presentation today, we believe education is going to be critical to make an EV readiness strategy in Los Angeles work. For the strategy to work, to support the early adopters and those that follow, we see a lot of coordination happening between some key actors. In very simplified form, the city, the utility, manufacturers, customers, all have key pieces of information that they need to share with others. Cities, of course, are evaluating electric vehicles and related infrastructure against their transportation plans, building codes, permitting processes, community plans, myriad of other considerations. Utilities control electricity rates, maintain grid reliability. In the City of Los Angeles, I believe our Deputy Mayor mentioned in today's opening session, we have the largest municipal utility in the country. And the fact that they are a city department makes it easy to coordinate some of this with them. Manufacturers and customers all control critical pieces of information. This information needs to be shared in order to deliver some of the key components of that EV strategy. So the city and the utility working together on streamlined installation, the city working with customers and with residents on infrastructure planning. Of course, manufacturers and their service providers are working with consumers on home readiness, and the manufacturers and utilities continue to work on EVSE installation process. These are just some examples of things they're working on together. The challenge in LA is that this all works well together within the limits of the City of Los Angeles. It doesn't work so well when we try to take this and blow it up into a regional strategy, which is why we created a group called SoCal EV. Just to put LA in context, that dark yellow area is the City of Los Angeles on the far left-hand side of the screen. And for the 4 million residents that live in that area, coordinating with the City of LA, the LA Building and Safety Department, our General Service Department, Bureau of Engineering, and the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, it's a challenge, but relatively easy. When you get further beyond that into this area that is very interconnected economically, a lot of people who work in LA live outside of the city limits. A lot of people in LA commute to other parts of the region. There are 18.7 million people that live in this area, covered by multiple utilities, well over 100 cities, with different building and safety departments, different fleet managers, and so getting this group on the same page is a challenge we think we can address through education. So what we did, and continue to do, earlier this year, we held an EV 101 workshop. There's our mayor. And our target audience were city managers and the people who really need to get on the same page and have a common base of knowledge about EV. And we held panels with EV makers, EVSE manufacturers. We brought in the customer perspective. Plug-in America was good enough to arrange that panel. Local implementation, we discussed incentives. What we got back from, after we conducted a survey of all the participants, was that these were the very things that they thought were most important, that they wanted to learn more about. And these were also the areas where there was significant knowledge deficit for many of these cities. So we're going to continue with this education effort regionally. There's going to be a workshop on December 9th where it's going to be hosted in the South Bay, where we're going to discuss some demonstration projects that are happening in the LA area, like the local used vehicle project, basically a neighborhood electric vehicle project that is happening in the South Bay. And if you're in the LA area, please attend. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to share with you what we're doing in Los Angeles, and be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Great, another tremendous set of data. One thing that does strike me from some of the other presentations I've seen in advance of this, integrating incentives and education seems to be something that every city will have to do, and to get that right is going to be key. So it's great to see the LA story, no pun intended, for how that's being done. I'm assuming your presentation will also be at the hands of other people. Great. Okay, my third and final speaker before our panel session, I'd like to invite up Mr. Yoshikazu Nakamura. I've just managed to get that right, I hope. Great, thank you. So please come up Mr. Nakamura is Senior Executive Officer, Corporate General Manager of Mitsubishi in Japan. Welcome.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I'd like to express my great thanks for this invitation to C40 Association. Today, I'd like to share you the current status of our electric vehicle IMEV and the future product of now MMC planning. This slide shows what is Mitsubishi IMEV. As an electric vehicle, the IMEV has 5 distinct product features. First of all, it does not emit any CO2 while operating. Even when considering the electric generation process, the CO2 emission is much lower than gasoline vehicles. Second, the IMEV is very economical because it is an electric vehicle that runs 100% by electricity. If you compare the cost to drive the same distance with the gasoline vehicle, for example, in case of Japan, the energy usage can be as low as 1/3 up to 1/9. The difference came from the usage in the daytime or nighttime. The third, the vehicle runs smooth and the acceleration is impressive, thanks to the powerful electric motor. Fourth is cruising range. The cruising range in one charge is 160 kilometers under Japanese 1050 mode, and 150 kilometers in case of regulation in Europe. Fifth is battery, the charging system that can be charged in various places, such as at home and at a quick charging station. In addition to, it's okay. In addition to those 5 features, what I'd like to highlight is its packing of IMEV. IMEV is only 3,395 millimeters from end to end, but thanks to the arched roof, you can see, and the long wheelbase, created by its rare mid-style layout, 4 adults can easily ride in comfort. As green and clean the vehicle, we believe that the car doesn't have to be big. Let's say the keyword is small is smart. Next, I'd like to touch upon the history and target of our electric vehicle IMEV.